U.S. Senator proposes banning acquisitions by Big Tech. Josh Hawley wants to ban companies with a market value of $100 billion from acquiring or merging with other companies. It's Josh Hawley. I'd be skeptical of what he's saying. There's probably a hidden poison pill. Did anyone actually read the bill? It's only 8 pages long. The headline gets hung up on the $100 billion M&A stuff. But there are 2 other major changes that this makes. First, it puts the burden of proof for the Sherman Antitrust Act on the defendant. A plaintiff now only needs to allege detrimental effects of particular practices, and explicitly a plaintiff need neither define the scope of a relevant market nor establish the share of such a market controlled by the defendant, all this by a mere preponderance of the evidence. A better than 50% chance that it's true. Meanwhile, the defendant must show by clear and convincing evidence that their actions were pro-competitive. That is insane. It's not the worst part, however. The final section of the bill creates restrictions on dominant digital firms. It gives the FTC the power to unilaterally declare any company that owns a website or service with dominant market power a dominant digital firm, and thereby make any acquisition or any stock or share in any activity affecting commerce with a value of more than $1 million a de facto unfair trade practice. This is literally targeted at kneecapping any tech firm the party controlling the FTC doesn't like. This is fucked up. Well, if we could prevent 2 companies from monopolizing the market and buying up every game studio in existence, that would be wonderful. But my spidey senses tell me this is not about that. This is about going after the social media companies who didn't sit back and allow Don to do whatever it took to win re-election. This seems silly. If the goal is to prevent monopolies, the focus should be on investigating, monitoring and giving the responsible agencies the power to break up monopolies, if necessary. I don't know what is more ironic. A dipshit Republican trying to pick corporate winners and losers, or the same dipshit Republican openly going after the outlets that do all his disinformation heavy lifting. Either way, as a Mo voter, let me give you all fair warning that his colleague we elect in 2022 will be just as awful as him, and quite possibly much stupider. This shithead will never write or actively try to pass any kind of anti-monopoly legislation. I find the term virtue signaling to be vapid, but all he is doing is pretending to stand up to social media companies because Repubs and Fox News have convinced stupid people that tech companies are conspiring against them. Is this even a tech sub anymore? The top comments here are bullish on the concept, but wary of Sen. Hawley. This will absolutely destroy startups and venture investment and slow down innovation, broadly speaking, across a ton of different sectors. It's basically a zero-tolerance, lazy rule with no nuance to it. If you want to block specific mergers due to antitrust, change the antitrust laws. This is super heavy-handed. I think being careful with acquisitions is one of the smarter ways to deal with big tech, but an outright ban might do more harm than good. It makes startups more risky by removing one path to a good exit. Discouraging startups gives more power to existing players, not less. For the best outcome, I don't think there are shortcuts. You have to look carefully at each acquisition individually. On the surface, a maximum limit for the size of companies seems like a reasonable start of a workable concept. I still think falling downstairs is the best use of Josh Hawley's time though, and if he could start that trip down the stairs riding McConnell like a boogie board, that would be just magnificent. Why isn't he in gaol? I mean, he committed an open act of treason and sedition against this nation. What does it take in this country to hold traitors accountable? Isn't this dipshit supposed to be a Republican? If they keep this up, their only donors will be the NRA and the Aryan Brotherhood. On second thought, keep talking, Josh. Cross-post from R, Technology. Microsoft bets big on health with $19.7 billion purchase of Nuance. Nuance's technology includes a conversational AI tool versed in specialized medical terms, freeing physicians from note-taking and allowing better patient-physician interactions in person or in the telemedicine appointments that have taken off during the pandemic. Executives said Nuance's program has completely redefined clinical documentation by capturing and contextualizing every words of the physician-patient encounter and automatically documenting it, said Microsoft Chief Executive Satya Nadella during a briefing Monday. They just split the company in two and buy them out anyway. Corporations use lawyers to get around laws, and lobbyists to change them, instead of making a new law which is laughably ignorable. Why not enforce the ones we currently have? I mean, it's a traitorous pause, but it's not a bad idea. Possible should have an adjustment rider for when inflation costs change what big for companies is. It's his red herring, y'all. He's doing it to make the Democrats scramble around. Fuck the Satan worshipper, fucking goofy ass, American-hating cornflakes-eating bitch boy. He is agnostic on this matter, but he just wants the Democrats to waste their time. This is something I feel a lot of liberals would normally support, but because a Republican has come up with it, they must disagree. I mean, nobody likes this man, but is this really a bad idea? We've let monopoly be the name of the game for so long and it's become a big issue. The giants of industry today just constantly gobble any prospect of competition. I mean, nobody likes this man, but is this really a bad idea? We've let monopoly be the name of the game for so long and it's become a big issue. The giants of industry today just constantly gobble any prospect of competition. Of all the approaches that I've seen to address the enormous power these companies have, antitrust action seems like the best course of action. Punishing anti-competitive actions and encouraging more competition in the market would do a lot of good for users everywhere. If the problem is that we're so dependent on just a couple companies to communicate with each other, then we can address that directly. If there were more like 12 major social media sites rather than like 4, then the actions of one don't have nearly the same impact. Hawley's still a moron though. This is the first of his many big tech bills that actually makes any sense. You know what, I don't care if big companies get bigger. Under a small set of circumstances, all full-time employees at or above an annually re-evaluated and locality conscientious poverty line, including affordable health, dental, and vision care, full tax burden paid, no relief, subsidies, loopholes, etc. Executive salaries anchored to those of the lowest earner in the company. You want to skate by paying most of your employees the federal minimum wage full-time translates to $15,080. Let's say the allowance permits executive salary 50x above that. Congratulations, your dependence upon poverty labor has capped the executive salary at $754,000. That's an astronomical amount of money to most people, but to the modern executive, it'd be a slap in the face. You want your business to get huge, it's going to get huge to the benefit of your employees, too. What about just reforming the corporate tax structure as is being proposed by the Biden administration? Seems kind of odd that the Republicans now would want to get into corporate regulation of banning mergers and acquisitions. Always be skeptical of right-wingers trying to hold companies accountable, or limit their power. It's not what they believe in fundamentally, so it's often a farce, or concealment of something far more sinister. Josh Hawley is a traitor and a scumbag, but let's be real, if it were Bernie Sanders saying this, many of us would be saying it seems like a good idea, at least on the surface. I like that a bill Redditors would normally absolutely love is being trashed on Reddit because a Republican wrote it. It's the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act all over again. You don't care about the policy. It's just a team sport to you, and regardless of what policy is put in place, you only support it. If it's your team doing it, you place your team above the nation. This is why America will fall and why it deserves it. We can take heart in the knowledge that the people most dedicated to their team are the ones who will suffer the most though. Some people start those smaller companies hoping for a big buyout and an acquisition once they reach a certain valuation. This would stifle innovation. Silly to push legislation over sour grapes. Ego getting in the way doing what is better for the greater good. He's looking to 2024. I expect he will get a GOP nod by saying I fought for Trump when no one else would. He's also a protege of Chief Justice John Roberts. This is a dangerous man, smart and completely amoral. Won't matter. Now, instead of Facebook acquiring a different company, the investor will just own the majority of shares in the new company and continue to do everything they did earlier. They don't give a shit about large corporations until they enforce their terms and conditions in a way conservatives dislike, ban corporate lobbying, regulate oil and gas, etc., and then we will take these idiots seriously. This is gonna be a huge case of devil is in the details. What does acquiring mean, and are there workarounds for it? Overall, I trust Republicans to always mean us harm so far, so I don't trust the bill. However, on the surface this sounds like a phenomenal idea. It will create limits on just how big an individual company can be, which would seriously limit monopolistic behaviors. However, it would also have to prevent things like shareholders of one company from owning a significant percentage of another company. So like we can't have Bezos own Amazon shares and 1% of, not Amazon shares. In any case, I'm sure this bill has a lot of handwritten scribbles that got cut off by the scanner. Wait, doesn't this go against the whole GOP argument of letting business free rein to do what they want? Seems only mad cause the tech companies don't usually align with conservative bullshit. Nice idea. Let's cripple American companies and give space for Chinese and Indian tech companies to take over the market. Let's kill the last sector American is still leading and dominating, and let's give it to other countries to lead. Well done. Just because companies did a great job now they need to pay the price. Just tech. Then Hawley's just being his usual fascist rat self, trying to get social media to promote shitty conservative ideals. All companies, including fossil fuels, pharma, weapons etc., then he's onto something. This would absolutely have an impact opposite of intended. A big exit is the primary incentive for super high-performance tech workers to take the risk to build their own business. Remove the most likely exit strategy and you'll see more of those people stay at big tech companies. His reasons for doing it are wrong. He's trying to punish big tech for not supporting Daddy Trump, but also like, hey, fuck it. Even if he got to the right conclusions for the wrong reasons, it's still a good idea. Take it a step farther and break up the big four while you're at it. Regulate these monopolies so we can actually have marketplace competition. Bullshit argument and guy. The better argument is a little intriguing, though. How do you prevent big companies from buying tiny ones and destroying them to enjoy market monopolies? Won't work in anything approaching a free market, as many startups want to make a product that gets them rich by being bought out by the big guys. That's a happy exit. Just how do you stop the good parts of stuff like Facebook buying Oculus with the bad monopoly, product wrecking side? I know Oculus isn't monopoly ATM, but you get the idea with AT&T. How about fully funding the antitrust division at Dodge? That wouldn't require changing existing law and would prevent Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. from acquiring competitors. I mean, unless you don't really believe in the free market and think that competition should be squashed. What this will do is entrench the large companies that are already that big. Right now, two smaller companies can join force via an acquisition and take on a larger company. With this rule in place, the only way for a currently greater than equals 100 big company to take on a larger company, for example Amazon, would be organically, which takes way longer and will increase the amount of time before a big company has other competition its size. I don't understand why people here think this is bad. There should be stricter laws protecting the people from predatory companies and monopolies. Do people here really like unfettered capitalism? Restricting monopolies from forming, tearing down existing ones is a great thing for the people. Sure, they'll just instead wait for the companies they want to fail, file bankruptcy, then purchase the IP/assets instead of acquiring or merging like they do now. It'll probably even be cheaper and won't see them have to employ anyone or worry about paying unemployment, severance as a result of the consolidation. In principle it's a grand idea. In practice I don't think this will have the desired result. Stronger regulations would be better. It's not a bad concept, to be honest, if applied across the board as an antitrust rule. However, you would have to bust up companies to level the playing field, or it would become a gatekeeping law that only serves to prevent future companies from getting any bigger. It also fails to address companies not within its jurisdiction, which is why they will just get picked up by companies outside the US. But seriously, if you crunch the numbers you will see that these mergers are a big contributor to the wealth gap. They eliminate redundancies in management, knowledge workers, and line staff if in the same business, cutting usually a large amounts of good-paying jobs and leaving less people at the top to rake in larger bonuses. Nothing Josh Hawley wants or suggests should ever be considered, even if it sounds like utopian legislation. He's just lying and will change it or object to it before it is passed. It's the only way to deal with these clowns. Here's why. Probably, my lobbyist friends who represent companies with shareholders who can be bought out. They want to make unpopular business choices without the risk of losing their company after going public. EI5. Scumbags want to do scumbag shit without any chance of being held responsible. Reading material includes fiduciary responsibility. This would kill innovation and actually turn these giant tech companies into monopolies. Most startups only exist for the chance of being purchased. If Microsoft can't buy Slack, they will build it and crush Slack. That is anti-competitive. I'm not sure a pure market cap rule is the best idea. I mean, smaller industries could be monopolized. Obviously there's some catch to this, like it wouldn't apply to private companies or something like someone mentioned already. A lot of startups go to these large corporations since they need funds to develop their product. If they don't go to a big company, where will they go? For example, Tesla even went to Apple for help to get them off their feet. Meeting was rejected, but that's besides the point. All of you in this thread with your ad hominem attacks. Yeah, this guy is a piece of crap for other reasons that have nothing to do with this. Without being too committed to the details of any particular policy proposal, I think this is a good idea. Unchecked corporate consolidation harms society. I clearly remember the first time someone explained capitalism to me when I was a kid. My first thought was that it was like blobs of oil on top of water. One blob absorbs another blob and becomes bigger. Eventually there's only one blob. This is a great example of how the government cannot keep up with business. Public companies might be inhibited by such a law, but private companies have no definitive market value because they are not publicly traded. Consolidating within private corporate shells would create more secretive multinational conglomerates. These shells could incorporate within friendly foreign countries or by creating their own countries. Some could eventually incorporate into outer space. The possibilities are limitless. As for Senator Hawley, he should be careful not to piss them off. After all, corporations are people, Supreme Court approved. Nothing with Josh Hawley will ever be looked at without contempt because of the photo of him holding his fist high in the air in support of fringe hate groups. If he had any dignity he would have resigned, but having good character is certainly not a prerequisite for being in the Senate.